Coach.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, trying to stay busy still. Getting closer to bowling center's opening. See how it goes here.
Fingers crossed, right? Yeah.
Yep, yep.
So the 26th is the day, right? Hopefully.
Hopefully, so far, I've been over to the bowling center at Carter one time or two, and they're getting things organized pretty quick. It's looking pretty good. There's some leagues being advertised, new ones, and the summer short seasons and some new modified formats, which is kind of a new deal with everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of people, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have an awesome guest today. Superstar legend that has some great history in our wonderful sport of bowling. We are very pleased to have Liz Johnson on with us today, Hall of Famer, multiple titles. She is an outstanding bowler, has had some great matches on TV. With no further ado, Coach, I think we're just going to add her on in.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Oh boy.
Yeah. Hey, Liz.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We really appreciate you coming on.
Most definitely.
Of course.
What's new with you? What's been going on?
Just trying to stay busy, I guess. Been doing a lot of probably more yard work in the last couple weeks than I have in a lifetime.
Yeah, right.
I'm fortunate we have I have some exercise equipment and and everything in the basement, so I'm still able to continue to do that and work out a little bit while I'm at home and just trying to stay busy. I was fortunate enough about last month to see my family in New York, in Niagara Falls. So I took a trip for a week or so and went down to Texas and visited some friends and bowled a little bit down there because it was open down there. So it's been different, but you got to make do because everyone's in the same boat.
So true. So true. Coach, you have some questions that Liz, we usually go through a series of questions. Coach is going to start asking away at those, and then we take small little breaks in between to try and see if anybody's asking any questions themselves, and we can pop them up on the screen. And generally, they're related towards the guests that we have. So if you see it up there and you want to just answer what the question is, we'll just let that kind of happen. And I think, Coach, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Yeah, Liz, we always start off with pretty much the same question, and I love to hear a little bit of history about our guests. So when did you, Liz, get started bowling?
I was about 4 or 5 years old. My parents bowled in leagues. I have an older brother, older sister, 5 and 7 years older than me, so they bowled in leagues. I was the youngest of the siblings, and I was that little sister getting kicked out of the bowling center when I wanted to watch everybody, and
Right.
so I just bowled in leagues, junior leagues, and that's got started from there. And bowling was a sport that just came very naturally to me, and I went on from there.
Did you like to do other sports, or just it really just tied into bowling when you were coming up?
I played softball for 10 years. I was a softball pitcher for base from the ages of 8 to 18 till I graduated high school. And my older brother Mike, who's 5 years older than me, we played sports throughout my entire childhood. We played football, basketball, hockey. We played stickball in the backyard, and we bowled together. We were in some of the same leagues. So I played sports my whole life, and I think that just helped with my bowling physically and definitely mentally as well.
Right. When you were out of the junior leagues, did you? A lot of our guests they bowl all their lives, and of course you have to. Did you bowl in high school?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. New York State had a very good junior program and high school program, and we traveled all over the state of New York. And so I was on the varsity bowling team from eighth grade to I graduated high school, and I was a state champion from I believe eighth grade, 10th grade, and my senior year. We were state champion team when I was eighth grade, and I was singles champion in my sophomore and senior year of high school. So I was very lucky growing up in an area that I did. We had an amazing junior coach by the name of Ron Moore. He passed away about 8 years ago, but he he was phenomenal in getting we probably had one of the top notch junior programs in the country in my mind back then in the late 80s and early 90s. And, he was able, we had junior leagues that were probably, and we had morning leagues and afternoon leagues. And these teams were comprised of anywhere from 4 to 5 bowlers on a team and 20 some teams in the league. So we had an amazing junior program. And that's, for me, that's where it all started.
Yeah, around the country, there's a lot of good programs getting started, and it's not quite like it was in the old days back when I was in the old days. And the same thing, we had 2 squads, and it was fun. We had to get used to throwing our black beauties and white dots back in the old days. But
Yeah.
that's great to know that you came out, and obviously we figured that you would. I don't have the next question written down, but now that we're on this topic of you bowling and out of high school, what made you decide, Liz, to become a professional bowler once you've gotten into your career? At what stage in your life, and how old were you that you really said, I want to pursue this as a profession?
I was probably in my probably like 16, 17 years old. I watched, I watched the guys on PBA on Sunday afternoons after coming home from junior league. Earl Anthony, and I remember the Earl Anthony Norm Duke match, probably when Norm first bowled against Earl. But I also of course, I watched the ladies. I watched Leanne, Robin, Nikki Junior they were on Wednesday night on ESPN growing up, and something I always thought in the back of my mind I would love to do, but I never thought it would happen. You just never know. But after I graduated high school, I went to school to Morehead State for 1 year, and it just decided school wasn't for me. I came home. I made the national team that summer, and I bowled on the national team for 2 years, and just I just bowled. I bowled whatever I could bowl in. I bowled in adult leagues. I bowled all over the state mostly. Traveled throughout the country a little bit, and then just decided I want to bowl on tour. I practiced a lot and did what I had to do. I think I was about 21, and when I think it was the end of, actually it was right when I was done with college. I bowled one stop, and I was 19 years old, I believe. I think it was in the fall of '93. I made my first cut on the ladies tour, and back then when you did a cut, you either had to join or you had to or you just couldn't bowl anymore. So I waited a little bit, and fast forward a couple years, and I just decided I want to bowl on tour, and I guess the rest is history. I just I had an amazing rookie year, and just went on from there.
Wow. Oh, that's something else. You made so many strides in the days. Did you say this was back in the 80s whenever you were out there?
I booked my first tour stop '93. I was 19 years old. I traveled with one of my friends who wanted to bowl some of the tour, and I tried it. I made the cut, and I couldn't bowl anymore unless I wanted to join. So that's what I did. I just waited a few years and bowled on Team USA, and I was completely ready. And February of '96 was when I officially joined and became PWBA member. Back then it was LPBT. And my very first tournament as professional, I made a TV show in Terre Haute, Indiana. So I realized that this is definitely what I want to do. I felt like I was good enough to be out there with the ladies, and the ladies, the better the competition, the ladies were awesome, and that's just something this is something I guess you can say in your blood from a very early age, and this is what I wanted to do.
Wow, that's terrific. AJ, the more we're discussing things, I like to keep asking other questions that are in more so than in the ones that we've got. And, Liz, we're talking about being on the TV show at such a young age and having all of this great physical talent that you have. How do you still process your mental game and your nerves? And as well as I do, that's a big part of any sport.
Mm-hmm.
How have you gotten to the point where you're so mentally strong?
It's hard to say. I think going back to when I bowled in the junior leagues, we had, I guess where it started, for me is I was 12, 13 years old bowling against guys mostly older than me, 4 or 5 years older than me. And they say the better the competition, the stronger you get at times. We had this program in the summer called the Crown of the Hill, kind of, it was like a sweeper league. And I was in those moments and in those situations at a very early age. And I guess for me, that's where it started. There's nothing I ever learned from anybody or picked up or read. It was just something that I guess along the line, it just learned from experience on my end. And I've never felt like I was afraid to step up to the plate. And when the situation came about and I needed a strike or needed a mark or something for a win, I was never afraid to do it. And that just continued on through my career. And I guess for me, that's the best way to describe it. And it was just something that, bowling for me was never pushed on my family. My biggest supporters were my family, my parents, and they always supported me. And it just went on from there. The love kept growing for me. The sport of bowling kept growing for me. And when I got in that situation, it wasn't, but at the same time, it wasn't like if, my life is going to end or my career is going to end if I don't get that strike or I don't get that mark. But it still gives you, there's no better feeling getting up in that time and accomplishing what you need to do. So.
Wow, and I notice a lot of great players as they get out on the approach in the heat of the battle, and a lot of our junior bowlers. And I try to work with these in our camps to get into your right pre-shot routine and breathing and focusing. Are you in tune to your pre-shot routine and under pressure?
Yeah, I just I get the sweats and I get the heart poundings like with the best of them. But a lot of deep breaths is what I've always tried to do. Just take a deep breath and just tell yourself, just make the best shot you can. If it happens, it happens. It doesn't, it doesn't. But in that moment, you just make a great shot. I get up and my thing for me is wiping the ball off the rosin bag. If there's a step on the approach, because I get some bowling centers that, and I don't know why, I've just always done this. So if there's no step, then there's no step. You get up in the step and I take my right foot and I just give it a little tap on the step and take a deep breath. And I just go up there, look at where my feet are at and just make, I guess, an imaginary line to where I want to hit, where I want the ball to get to the pins. And, that's what I do. That's what I've always done. So.
Wow. Well, that's terrific. I appreciate that information. Liz, how long do you plan on staying on tour? And if you decide to retire and whenever that might be, hopefully you won't ever retire. You'll stay out there forever. We want to watch you bowl. And you were offered a job to be the color commentator in the broadcast booth. Would you consider taking that job at one point in your career if you were offered that position?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much I would be being good at something like that. I would love to hopefully try to be able to do something like that. Of course, I wouldn't say no.
So you would consider that?
I would, if the opportunity came along and I felt like it was maybe I was good enough to do something like that, I would do it. Yeah.
Well, the crew that's got in there now, not trying to bump anybody out of their job, they're doing a great job too. Excuse me, but I think you'd be fantastic in the booth with all of your experience and ball knowledge and ball motion. There's a lot that goes into being a broadcast, on the tour, like Randy and even back in the days of Bo Burton, back in the old days.
Yeah, Nelson Burton Jr. was one of the best. Randy's awesome. Carolyn Doran Ballard's awesome. Another great person who was very good at doing that also was Kathy Doran Lizzie. She was one of the best at the commentating as well.
Right, all the time. And I know at Kegel, I had a chance to be in the booth with Lisa Wagner, and she was really fantastic in the booth too, if you remember that a little bit.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Lisa was always a very, very intelligent, very smart person on the lanes as well as off the lanes.
Was she in the era that you were competing?
Yeah, I bowled my first run with the tour. Lisa bowled. Lisa was my first 6 or 7 years. She was probably towards the end of her career. She won my first year on tour was the year she won the Queens in '96, which was in Buffalo. So she bowled throughout the first cut of the ladies tour.
Did you get a chance to go up against her on the TV show ever?
I don't know I don't think I ever did. I don't think I ever got a chance to bowl against her on TV. I mean, she was definitely one of my idols growing up as well. Her and also Wendy McPherson. Well, yeah, Lisa was she was very tough competitor. She knew how to get to the pocket. She knew how to win.
What are some of your most memorable titles? Say 3 or 4. You've got a lot of great titles when you stepped up there to win maybe a major. But what are some of your most favorite and memorable shots and titles?
Probably my latest one had won the PBA Chameleon in Reno back in November 2017. It was 4 of us on the show. It was myself, I believe it was Anthony Pepe and Tom Smallwood, and I had to get a strike and actually I had a double in the 10th to get to the final match, and I did. And the first shot in the 10 pin was like the slow pin of the ball, last pin of the ball, and then the final match I beat Anthony Pepe. I just had to stay behind the line, so that was definitely one of my favorite ones. Just making the men's show in 2005, even though I finished second and win, that was definitely a memorable show. Every single major I've won, my very first Queens, because Queens was I had at the time, I believe I had a couple U.S. Open wins and I had a bunch of titles, but I really wanted that Queens because I was so close in making the TV show. Or I didn't make a bunch of TV shows for the Queens, but to win my first in 2009 was definitely one of my most favorite as well. Every single title on my end is special.
Right. How many majors do you have right now?
I have 10. I have 6 U.S. Opens, 2 Queens, and 2 Players Championships.
So awesome.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that awesome, AJ?
Yeah, definitely. I can't even imagine just alone the experiences of being where you got to, one, and then to be able to capture them. And I think of all the great moments I experienced watching you, because I mean most of mine anyway, was just watching you as you got to TV, and I thought that was always an amazing thing to see when you guys got on TV. they just made our love for the sport grow more, I think, as we have gotten older too. So really awesome to see that for sure.
Thank
AJ, did you have it? I'm sorry, Liz, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good.
So we just have a couple people just making some small comments, and I think really it's just going along. We got a good shop operator up in the Detroit area, Mike Calhoun, who's here. He's just making some comments towards like what you've been responding to or what you've been saying. Pretty much just agrees. So Walter Palmer had at one point, I think we were talking about where you were at. This is not really a question; it's more of a comment. Explaining where he was at with coaching and stuff like that as far as his game. So we like to do this just in case if there's anything that triggers like Valoria and things like that, and for this gentleman. But I have one other thing I'm going to pop up here. We generally like to discuss and showcase off like things with our shop also throughout the way, and just kind of the Axiom. Have you had a chance to throw the Axiom? I guess that would be one of my questions I would give you.
I've thrown it a little bit. It's maybe a little like one of my favorite balls has been the Marvel S over the years. Okay. It seems like it's maybe a little bit cleaner than Marvel S. I haven't been able to throw it that much, but it's a very heavy rolling and something that definitely really good on a fresher, heavier condition.
Yeah.
With the clean back ends.
Yeah, I can see that. We've, I think our experience of seeing it so far, I think because of the pandemic, was just more of like the shows from the PBA. I think we were the only time we really got to see some people throwing it. But we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to showcase something like that off, and it obviously didn't get its traction like it needed to. So we were just going to make sure that head over to Bowlers Barn's website, pick that ball up as soon as you're able to. It's the Storm Axiom. I think when was the last time you were here for the demo? It's been a while, right? It was maybe last year.
Was it early February of last year, maybe?
Right, I think so.
I think, yeah. I was with Doan.
Yep.
We were doing the matchmakers and stuff like that. So
I think the one that followed you was the one that had the Axiom ball, and a lot of locals seemed to like it. It was, again, like you said with the Marvel S, it was pretty similar to that type of motion in some regard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I still have my Marvel S, so I'm going to probably hopefully compare them a little bit.
That'd be cool.
A little bit more soon.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't give that ball up at all.
I don't blame you. That one's been a pretty popular one with a lot of people. One of our local young kids here, it looks like he's throwing a question towards you there, Liz.
Jamarian wants to know what motivates you the most when you bowl, Liz?
I've always loved competition. I've been throwing a bowling ball for a little over 40 years, and the love of the game is still with me, and nothing. I love the competition. I love throwing a bowling ball, and always have, and as long as I'm physically able to do that, I'm going to continue to to keep bowling.
Nice.
Oh, that's terrific. What would be some advice? I know there's so many young kids, and there's a lot of young girls that I work with here. If you were going to aspire, and you had so many young people that come up to you, and I'm sure you had great conversations. I know you did in our demo day. What would be some of your advice for young guys or young girls, particularly the girls that want to go on the ladies tour? What should they really want to work on to be on the tour?
Number one, spares. Spares is such a huge part of the game, whether you're bowling in amateur tournaments. I don't care what kind of tournaments they are, or leagues. Sometimes leagues are more shot making, but tournaments, when you get on, especially when you get on the tougher conditions, you see how much more important spare making is. And if the tougher the shot, sometimes you may not want to go, move places on the lane. You may want to pick a comfortable area on the lane. It may not be depending on the pattern, of course. And get something where you can get to the 1-3 pocket or the 1-2 pocket if you're left-handed, and just make good shots, and hopefully you're able to make your spares. But spare making, a lot of practice on different conditions if you can, and have different balls in your arsenal. Balls that are clean, balls that are early, and a couple balls that are in between. And that way, when you go out, if you go to a tournament, you're not just totally blindsided, but what the conditions are thrown at you.
A lot of times I see some really, of course, very difficult spares. And if you've got a lot of volume and a long pattern, say, or flat pattern, I always ask pros and watch a right-hander, how do you go about the 3-9-10? Your best strategy on that?
The 3-9-10. It depends on the condition. Because for the longest time, like the 3-6-9-10, I use my first ball and just kind of hook into it. You got the split with the sleeper. I probably would do the same thing. Take your first ball and move probably where you're standing, in between where you stand between the 3-pin and the 3-pin and the 10-pin. If you're going at your 6-pin, but try to hook at it if you can. But recently, like I said, I've always used my first ball, or for the longest time I have, and then I had a little glitch as far as picking that up, and I would actually go use my spare ball, and I can kind of backhand at it, and but that's also with the 6-pin. So sometimes it depends on the condition. If you're on a really short pattern, hooking at it, you may just hook right away from it. So if you have something that's a little longer pattern, knowing that you have a lot of oil in that area, like where you get a lot of OB, you may try to throw the spare ball at it, or throw the first ball at it and kind of fade toward it. If you can fade toward it and get it just to the left of the 3 and the 9, you might be able to kick out that 10-pin as well. Sometimes it just depends on the condition of the pattern, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, right, AJ? I got no shot at all those different variables.
Those multiple spares. Yeah. Yeah, those multiple spares are tough. I think the last one we saw that was pretty crazy on how the attempt was to be picked up was watching Belmo do that same combo, I think, but adding the 6-pin in there with it. So doing the 3-6-9-10. I'm like, he used his spare ball, and I thought, man, this is crazy. He's not going to get it. And then he got it, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. On that, it definitely. I feel like it depends on the condition. I've been a little more successful. I've had a lot of dry spells as far as like the buckets, chopping the 5-pin, or the 3-6-9-10, chopping, leaving the 10-pin, and just sometimes trying different things. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I feel like I have a better shot doing it a different way. So.
Probably, excuse me, AJ, you talk about the bucket right-hander. I think maybe in my years of watching the shows and the men's tour, one of the greatest spares of all time, and I think it was a major, Norm Duke had to make a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that by any chance?
I think I remember seeing that, or I remember seeing a replay of it. And at that time, I mean, making a bucket is as hard as, you have to get up and getting a strike in the 10th to win. I remember back in 2002 against Leanne, I got up in the 10th frame, had to make a 2-8, and I made a 2-8. I thought that was the hardest, one of the hardest spares at that time in that situation. So you just kind of, you get up there and like any other like mental situation, you just like, I've done this before and just trying to make the best shot you can. So.
We talk about so much about about the importance of spares, and a lot of the young kids today don't get to bowl on sport patterns or tougher patterns or the patterns that you guys play on. And AJ's wife on a lot any pattern. I think AJ, your wife, and from all the times and years that I've known her, she throws her plastic ball at all the 2/8s.
It cracks me up. Like when I first saw it, I thought, man, what are you doing? And she would get it almost every time, but it would be just like dead on. I was like, there's no chance. I don't know. But it's funny that you say the 2/8. That's what struck my mind too, is my wife doing that. I'm like, that's nuts. That's
my one of my coaches, one of my best friends who was my coach for a long time, Sue Jeziorski, we were practicing about 20 something. I want to say it was probably like 20 something years ago. And somehow she showed me a way it was just a trigger or whatever, to stand here and just look in this spot and go at the 2/8. And I think ever since that point, that just, I'm not going to miss a 2/8 for, 95% of the time at least. So
nice. Very nice.
I can't help but stay with this spare stuff here because it's so. You said it's the most important thing. When we teach spares, and one of the greatest systems, we used to move 2 and 1, and for spares, and do you 3 and 1? Now it's 5 and 3. Whenever you move for your strike allowance, but on these spares, do you have a system that you have? You've heard of the 3-6, the 3-point targeting system. That's something that's been pretty popular the last number of years. It's a great process.
Right. I have it's not like the 3-6-9 system, but I usually what I do is stand. I say stand in the same spots for my spares. And but it's kind of almost off the 3-6-9, or I think it's 35 for the 10 pin, and then I'll stand like 32 or 33 for the 6 pin, and a couple more to the right of that for a 3 pin. Same thing with for left side spares, and again, depending on the condition, if the lanes are really tight or hooking a lot, if you have something really flat, I kind of move off of that a little bit. So that's what I've probably done for over 20-25 years. And just first dot, second dot, third dot, and move off of that. And for me, it's always worked for the most part. So I've always gone with that.
So many of these kids and of course adults today in our house shots, her right-handed for 7 pin. AJ, I think a lot of the majority of bowlers will hook it at the 7 pin or on the left side spares. Liz, if you were going to have a clinic, and do you recommend on house shots for the young kids today to still hook the ball, or maybe start throwing their plastic ball like at their left side spares like a 7 pin? What would you suggest for young kids?
For me personally, I would say go dead straight at it as much as you can. Use a plastic ball and go dead straight at it. It's less room for error. You get a house shot where you get all that oil in the middle, and they try to hook at it. They may hit that big puddle in the middle, and it just may not get there. They're, I think, leaving too much room for error. And but I mean, that's what I would try to help with or teach, or that's my opinion. And I feel like I've been very successful with that over the years. I've seen a lot of kids just, all they want to do is hook at it. And sometimes it's all right for the first ball, but for the second ball, for your spares, that's what's going to win tournaments and titles in my book. I don't care how many times you want to strike a game, but if you're not making your spares, it's not going to, to me, it's not going to be good enough.
The old adage of strike for striker spares, just
right.
So,
and I've also seen a lot of bowling with people over the years where maybe going off the subject a little bit, but if they're on strikes, you get up and leave a split, and I think they try to pick it up instead of getting 6 and 2 on a strike or multiple strikes and go 6 out, and that's a lot of pin count. So going back to probably another advice for some of the kids, get your count on when you are on strikes, and 2 pins can be 4 pins. 1 pin can be 2 pins, and that can be a cut or a cash, or anything like that. So I've seen that several times.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of kids when they're trying to qualify and just make the cut. And like you just said, they leave the Greek church and they try to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And they can possibly pick off the 10 pin and go, I missed the cut by 2 pins. So
Right.
it's really important and good advice. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me ask 10 more questions about spares. No, I can't do that because there's nothing more important than making spares. And I've talked to a lot of the tour players over the years when they used to come down to Kegel, and they used to bowl a lot of blocks. Now, if you bowl 8-game blocks,
yeah, we bowled a lot of 8-game blocks. We even my early, I want to say my first year on the ladies tour, I believe the format was a little different. We bowled 9-game blocks. We bowled 9 games in the morning, 9 games at night, and it was 18 games qualifying. So
you better be in shape, or I would never surpass that.
Yeah. I was 22 at the time, so that was a little easier back then.
Right? No kidding there.
Oh boy.
Our friend Kyle here has a little question as far as referring towards the 7 pin, wondering if you go across the lane or do you move left and be more on top of the pin going straight at it. He says the latter seems to be very popular now.
Yeah, ever since I've been bowling for a 7 pin, I always stand right and throw just straight at it with the plastic ball. Probably I'm usually stand probably between I want to say it's the first dot, so probably right around 10, 8, 9, 10, right in that area, and just go right over probably the 3rd arrow, and just go straight at it, plastic ball.
Nice, very nice.
Well, here we go, AJ. Whenever I start to get back in league with you, you're not going to see me hook the 7 pin anymore because I've been old-fashioned.
You can try it.
Do I?
You can try it.
Oh, I'm going for it because I'm getting tired of missing 19 7 pins to the right last year in league. So,
true.
or pull it a little bit and it's in the gutter right in front of it. But well, that's great. A lot of kids. Oh, the reason I ask an 8-game block is I got to stay on spares for that. It's getting boring, but spares are so important. How many spares in an 8-game block would you be upset if you missed? How many would be an upset number if you missed? How many? If you miss any, you're
1.
upset.
1. Yeah.
Very nice. That seems to be the.
I want to say last year at the Women's U.S. Open in Vegas, the last block I had a hard time. I think I finished 7th, and I had a hard time carrying. It was, probably it was the wrong ball, maybe not in the right spot. 30, I believe 37 single pin spares in the last. I think it was the last day or last block, and I don't think I missed 2 of them.
Oh man.
I maybe missed 1. One was one too many, but yeah, I've always prided myself on spare making, and any one single pin spare I miss, I would, that's one thing I'm like, I wish I didn't miss that spare. I wish I didn't miss that spare, but I think that's you just every single pin spare you have to make. So.
Gotta happen. Okay, enough about spares, AJ.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, there's going to be a couple of different things here. Bobby Schmidt is a longtime local that moved to Vegas to pursue some business there. Just no question. Just want to congratulate you on your amazing career. And
Thank
obviously,
you.
it's not over yet. So
I hope not. I still have a goal. I have 24 ladies titles, 1 men's title, and my goal is hopefully to have another title. It may be a little far-fetched. I believe Lisa Wagner does have 33 titles or 30 something. I know she's in the 30s. I would love to get to that high, but I would love to win another title. So that's my goal at that point. I don't feel like I'm done yet. It just unfortunately 2020 has been a rough year for everybody and for the tours. So just going to try to stay in shape and continue, and hopefully 2021 is going to be a good year.
yeah, definitely. Walter Palmer
Absolutely.
is asking, what changes have you made to your grip over time, i.g., more or less reverse pitch in your fingers, adjusting spans, etc.? Anything like that? Have you had very many adjustments throughout your years?
Knock on wood, have not made a pitch adjustment or span adjustment in probably 10 or 15 years.
Nice.
Wow.
I'm probably more old school than what everyone is now. I use a slug. I used grips, and that's pretty much it. Just drill a round hole, and I'm good to go. As the last probably year or so has gone on, it's been a little more inconsistent for me, so I may have to go back and see what happens. But for the most part, I don't think I've changed anything. I have, I believe my cuts are 4 1/16 on both fingers, and I have a quarter forward, eighth right on my thumb. And then both fingers are have some reverse in them, eighth and 5/16. So it's pretty basic stuff for me. And I have chubby fingers, and not my span's not super long. So, but it's just it works for me, and it's what's just have to bevel everything out. And I had an issue when I first went on tour. I used a sleeve, and it took me 15 minutes to work out a thumb. And having a round hole with the slug, it takes me 2 minutes to work out a thumb, so that works for me, and it's easy. And so yeah.
Nice.
I actually had one of those. I guess they're called floating nerves on your thumb.
Yeah.
And I was probably 13, 14 years old at the time, and my ball driller had to bevel my thumb out. It almost looked like a football. It was, or like an egg shaped, and it was just, it would, every time my thumb, that nerve would hit the ball, it would pinch my hand. So he made it, kind of beveled it out, but then I got, then it was okay. And now I just have a regular round thumb. So.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice. There's a lot of course, AJ, they drill a ton of ovals and the degree cuts, but you're round hole.
Yeah, just a round hole. I just bevel it out a couple times and zap it with the zapper, and I'm good to go.
I have two questions to add along to that. So, the forward pitch that you've got in your thumb, how long have you had that? Has it always been there, or is it?
I've had it probably 15 years. Yeah, I probably had it a good 10, 15 years, right around there. Quarter forward, eighth right. Well, 31 hole. I'm 31, 31, and 31. All three fingers.
Easy for the guy on the truck. Then that's
good. You would think, right?
Yeah, you would certainly think. You would hope so. Correct.
That doesn't always happen, though.
No, I know the sides of that. Yeah. Then the second one would be for the hole size that you do, since you go round. Do you use any tape or lots of tape go in and out of the ball, or does it kind of just stay the round hole and call it good?
Yeah, I have to use at least one piece of tape. I use the 1-inch white tape. You put that on the front part of my thumb, and I like the feel of the tape. So I make it big enough where it's at least just one piece. Hopefully no more than 2, sometimes 3. If there's more than 2, then it may become an issue that sometimes I've actually beveled it out too much. and I like it. I try not to bevel it out too much because then I'm going to start holding onto it too hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes the sharper the better. I can't make it too sharp because then I won't be able to get out of it. But I just bevel it enough, and hopefully that's pretty good. So
Cool. Bobby, who asked a question earlier, sorry, Coach, don't mean to interrupt your questions, but
Yeah, go ahead. Bobby.
He lied about his question, said that he had one anyway. Who do you root for a baseball team?
I'm a Yankees fan. Since I was about 6, 7 years old. So I root for the Cubs when I'm here. That I've been here, but yeah, I'm a Yankees fan at heart.
Nice. Did you live there, right, for some years in New York, or I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I grew up in Niagara Falls, New York. I moved to Cheektowaga, New York, which is Buffalo, when I was 25 and lived there, had a house there for 18 years. And then officially moved here in Palatine in 2017. I've been on and off in Illinois, Deerfield area before that, but officially in 2017.
Nice. Yeah, we joked our last conversation when we were talking about the time frame for the day about how you could just come here pretty much for our little interview.
Oh yeah.
Considering how close we really are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably like going to the city, driving to the city.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So you've grown up in cold weather. Don't you want to retire sometime in Florida, get rid of the cold weather?
Yeah, it's what I'm so used to it. Like Buffalo, it was cold and had a lot of snow. Here it's colder and not as bad the snow. So I actually would prefer the cold with not as much snow over the lot of snow. So
Yeah,
don't
the
have to
humidity
shovel.
can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what are I've always kind of wondered a lot of these bowlers, and you bowl so much during the year, and you're on the road so many motels and hotels and miles and traveling and driving. Outside of all of that, when you're not bowling, what are some of your favorite hobbies and things you like to do when you're not out on tour? What do you like to do?
Just kind of hang out at home. I think because I've traveled so much throughout the years, being at home is nice. Up until the last probably couple months where all you do is be at home. But I listen to a lot of music. I like, I feel like I'm a very healthy person, and I like to exercise a lot and just be home. Trying to, just with all the quarantine stuff, I'm reading up a lot more on health and nutrition stuff. So, and just trying to find ways where, help me stay healthier and hopefully prolong my career a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I know it was so difficult for all of us to be locked up in our home, stay at home, and every day I would get up, I would try to dress and stay out of my pajamas. I don't know about you, but it was try to get back into your routine was pretty hard, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just I'm like, well, what t-shirt and what pair of sweatpants can I wear this day? So
Right. Yep. All the
I
chores,
know.
the added chores that are things that we don't get a chance to get done, I think has been the status for us too here. It's like just keep trying to do all the things you haven't been able to do.
Yeah. When the day, fortunately a lot of days have been nice and still able to get out and maybe go for walks. We have 2 dogs and dogs like to go outside. So, still getting fresh air and getting your exercise is still very important. So.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add up there, AJ, at the time here?
Lynn Joy just had a comment. I'm not sure if it's much of a question necessarily, but are you able to see all this, Liz? I'm not sure if you're able to read it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let's see if you want to read through that, see if there's anything you want to add to that. I guess there is a question kind of in there, so.
Good question.
Yep.
Just keep working. I don't know if she uses anything uses a wristband or no wristband. Just to keep working, keep practicing, and to depending what, make sure she's got the right fit for her bowling ball.
Yeah.
And just keep working. Just keep working.
Keep working. I know a lot of young girls that I have in Rockford here. There can be smaller frame and smaller wrist, and a lot of them wear the sizable wrist devices with the adjustable, systems here. How's your opinion on that?
The wristband or the different
The big
positions?
one, the large ones.
Um, I've used the large ones before. This is my personal opinion. For me, they gave me more spin, which is something I didn't want. It was a little more inconsistent. When you get the bigger wristbands that have more, that go more into the finger, like with the real wide ones, I feel like you spin it a little bit more. And I think having a little heavier roll sometimes it could depend on the condition as well, though. Sometimes you need those conditions, like especially if you get something that or the front part of the lane, doesn't exactly have a lot of, but we get this a lot on tour where the front part of the lane just hooks early and you need something to help you in the back. Maybe something with a little more spin in the big
Right.
wristbands may be more helpful. I've always used the one where it's just one piece of metal. I have one now, fortunately for Storm now. And it's something I've used pretty much my whole life, probably close to 30 years. Since I was about 15, 16 years old, I've used the same style wristband. So that's always where it's, without it, I would probably spin it a little bit more. Maybe actually, if I wanted to slow it down, if I took it off, I could probably slow my ball speed down. But for me, I wouldn't be as consistent as I am. Like you see a lot of girls use the wristband for their first shot and take the wristband off for like a 10 pin to flatten it out. And I've tried to do that where I without using the wristband, and I would actually put the wristband back on to throw at a spare because I felt like I was more consistent with it on.
Yeah. I would say that when
everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everyone could be different. So.
Yeah, there are some that have done that, and I think that have come in the shop. And my suggestion a lot of times is if you're going to not use it for your spare ball, I need to know before we drill the ball up, maybe, so that because the span will be slightly different, and that way it'll match up to your hand a little better. Then you won't make
if you're not gonna use a wristband, it's almost like, or if you're gonna go back and forth, it's almost like you need double the amount of bowling balls because you're gonna need bowling balls with wristband. You're gonna need bowling balls without. I've tried that, and I feel like I'm really clawing at it, and so I never feel like I get any ball speed on it. And I'm like, oh, I'd probably have to drill another ball to drill a little bit longer actually. To be able to throw it without a wristband.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, back in the day, back in my day, the way to drill a bowling ball was to get your fingers in there, no grips, of course, and stretch that span as far as you could go.
Yeah.
You remember, because if you didn't do that, there's something wrong with you, and you had to have a half-inch reverse, half-inch forward fingers, just exaggeration.
Yeah.
Those were the norms, AJ, and you remember back in the day.
Oh yeah, I had some of that even myself.
The fingertip, the semi fingertip was probably a little bit past the knuckle, and then the fingertip was just in front of the knuckle, I believe. So.
Yep, definitely, for sure.
A lot of the young girls now, the college girls that come out on tour, they don't wear wrist device, but they like to get the ball into the lane pretty early, and they load and unload. And we see that so much, is to get the ball down into the lane. You see that a lot with Daria and some of the girls that are really, then they do get quite a bit on the ball, and they can play all parts of the lane, which is really a great not a new release, but it's been out for some time. But I see that a whole lot.
Yeah, sometimes it's so awesome to see some of the young girls do that, the Darias and stuff like that sometimes, but at the same time you want to I want to say this as see them do it consistently, and sometimes you see the balls kind of go all over the place, And so, but I mean, they're fun to watch as long as when they're consistent with it.
Yeah, straighter has always been the greater.
Sometimes straighter is greater. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
I guess when that you see them hook it like that, you kind of want to see them maybe straighten it out a little bit to give them more tools in their game.
Yeah, most definitely.
But I wish I could hook it more. Trust me, there's been so many tournaments. I'm like, just if I had a couple more revs and just could slow it down. That was one thing growing up, and still to this day, is you see a lot of girls working on their ball speed. And I've always been one, if I could back off my ball speed. I've always had, 18, 19 miles an hour ball speed. 17 for me is probably kind of slow. And, sometimes, especially bowling against the guys, it's you can get to the 1-3 pocket and you leave, it's a 4-pin, or you may try to make a move at 2-4-5 or a light hit 7. It's a big difference in carrying something like that if you can just back the ball speed off, and gives you maybe a couple more revolutions on it. And that's what I wish I could do. Sometimes it's what's harder for others is easier for others, and vice versa.
Yeah. Have you throw 15 pounds, right? I thought you said that the last time I talked to you way back when you're throwing 15 pounds, correct?
Yeah, I throw them 15 by accident back in '97. I was throwing 16 pounds, and they drilled me 15-pound ball by accident, and that's how it all started. I'm like, I'm not going to 15 pounds ever again.
I was just gonna say maybe 16 if you wanted to slow it down a little bit. That would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know, AJ, how many 16-pound balls do you even drill?
We have a few guys in town. That's about it, really. I mean, there's not a big drastic amount of people that really do it anymore. It seems like it's a very minimal amount of people that go towards it. But
I think a couple of the girls 16 pounds.
Do they?
On tour.
That's awesome.
I think so.
Super cool.
I always tell a little story on myself, and AJ and everybody in Rockford knows this. If I stand left of 20, I get serious nosebleed. But it's pretty hard. If I can stay right in front of it. Do what?
I said I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Coach says stand on 25. I said, you're looking for the 5-7-10. It's not going to happen. So, Liz, in all of your travels, and I know you're on the national team and international, what would be some of your most favorite places that you've been to?
My favorite places recently have been Korea. I've been very fortunate to have been invited to go to Korea through Storm. I won a big tournament in 2018 in Korea. It was the Samho Cup. It was, I believe it was $45,000 against men and women, mostly men. That was one of my most memorable tournaments, and now one of my favorite places to go. Got to go to Kuwait for the first time this past September. It's a beautiful place. They just built a beautiful bowling center and building hotels in the building as well. One of the coldest places I've ever been is, as far as the building, it was probably 55, 60 degrees. They kept it super cold. But it's a beautiful place. Of course, Abu Dhabi, we won the women's gold medal in Abu Dhabi in 2015, and the very last game of the ladies gold medal team event, I shot 300, and that's something I'll never forget. That was my last tournament as a Team USA member. I was throwing, I can't even remember what it was, but I
was going to joke and say a Marvel S.
Yeah, it wasn't a Marvel S. It wasn't a Marvel S. It was a Skyrocket.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I shot 300 in the very last day at Abu Dhabi. So that was probably one of my most memorable favorite places to go. And we got to go to Dubai as well, just to go visit. But yeah, Korea has been probably one of my most favorite places. I love the food in Korea too. They take us to some of the best Korean barbecue places. I'll tell you, there's no better place to get Korean barbecue than Korea. So
That's awesome.
I know I was able in 2009 to be coaching in Qatar, which is a very, very unique place, and we got to travel around. And Tim Mack was there at the time, and Saudi Arabia. But it was kind of different about a little different trying to get some food that you might like. It was a lot different in the Middle East.
yeah,
But
yeah, it is. It's I've really have grown a love for Middle Eastern food, and so going to Kuwait and we went to Abu Dhabi and some of those places, I really enjoyed it, and they really treat you. I've honestly I felt safer going to Abu Dhabi and Kuwait than maybe some of the places in the United States.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I got a little bit more. One I kind of was going to be here. Kind of funny, AJ. I think you know where this is coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many autographs have you given? And I say 50,000 or more. How many? Any
How
way
many
to
autographs
tell?
have I gotten? No idea. Thousands? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely thousands, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Whenever you give your autograph, I'm just kidding. It's hard to be a ton from all you guys. And the thing about you, and you'll stay there with these fans, and just a lot of times you see a lot of professional sports figures. I know they don't want to stop and give an autograph, but I've seen you so many times to take the time, give an autograph that you can actually read it, and stay and talk with the fans.
Well, I think over the years you definitely appreciate things a little bit more. Maybe things I may not have appreciated as much in my 20s or even in my 30s, and being now in my mid 40s, and the way things have, where the tour has gone away and come back, and you get the younger kids and people that really appreciate you and your bowling and watching what we do. When people come up to you and say, I came here just to see you or to see the ladies tour, it just makes you appreciate things a lot more. And, things have been taken away from me as far as bowling more than once, and you just don't take things for granted, and you're trying to not to take any of that stuff for granted. And just try, you never know if you're having a bad day, someone else is having a worse day, and you don't know what they're going through, and you just try to make the best of it and try to make them feel good and special, and just put a smile on their face.
Absolutely. I know when I was 10 or 11 years old, I was able to get an autograph that I cherished from Dick Weber. And I never forget the fact that he took the time to talk to me and sign that bowling pin. And it was just really a treasure. And I still got that. I still
Yep.
got that pin. And you are
He
really,
he was one of the nicest men ever.
Oh,
We bowled the tour stop in Fairview Heights, Illinois, which is right outside of St. Louis, and I got to bowl pro-am with him. And I mean, he was a gem. He was an absolute gem. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, can't say anything bad about him. He was a great man.
absolutely. Being in Chicago, I had another opportunity to be around a pro bowler and a great autograph. And he would joke around and tell stories a lot. You any idea who that is from Chicago? That would be Carmen.
Carmen, yeah, yeah. He was where I practiced at. He up until a little bit ago, he was always there. He was always practicing. Him and his wife were there, and yeah, he's one of the good guys too. In fact, I think before I moved here, I was going to have lunch at Panera Bread, and him and his wife were at Panera Bread and got to talking. It was kind of funny. So, and it's Chicago area is not. It's a very big area, but it's kind of funny. You see somebody in the same in the same little restaurant. So
yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, AJ, I think I've gone through the questions, Liz, and we really appreciate you taking the time. And I really hope in the future here that we can get your tour back out and see the girls. And I'm really praying and hopefully that it comes back as soon as we can see you guys.
me too. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys. And it's been my pleasure and my honor. So
Yeah, we appreciate it for sure. Definitely. Thank you so much for being so kind and taking the hour-ish time out of your day to spend with us for sure.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, AJ. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We appreciate it, Liz, and have yourself a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Super cool. Super cool.
I couldn't help myself but talk about spares, and I'm sorry, but it's just as a coach, and you're a coach and ball driller and tournament bowler, so I hope all of you really heard that from a Hall of Famer, is to cover those spares and go away with your tournament knowing that you missed the cut by 2 or 3 pin if you just made another spare. But she's such a great lady, great ambassador. I'm really happy that she was with us today.
Absolutely. She's a true joy. I enjoy her thoroughly. Every time I think she's ever been in town, I think she was in town with us for the state finals here for IHSA during practice session. I think she was hanging out with us and doing some autographs for the center, thanks to Tony and Brad. It's just an absolute joy to see her, and the experience that she's had throughout her years is just phenomenal to be able to get an inkling of anything, out of her for what she has for knowledge is just amazing.
Yeah, she's really a gem.
One thing we didn't quite catch yet, and I'm just going to do it real quick, Coach,
Sure.
is that we want you to head over to our bag section at bowlersmart.com to check out the win a jersey option at the top of the screen. It is Storm Orange Vortex jersey. What I would like to do is a lucky guest here. I'm going to go ahead and give one of those away. But I want everybody to head over there that can to sign up for one. But we're going to give away one to a random listener today, and maybe one that threw a question out at us. So just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to do that.
Great.
I'm going to add that to the bottom of the feed here too, Coach, or add it to the questions and comments that we had so that people are able to do that at an easier rate. So the questions and everything went over really well. I thought everything went pretty good.
Yeah, I really do. I'm so excited to know that she's going to continue to bowl her career, and she said, "I hope I win another title." I think that's pretty obvious that Liz is going to win more than one title if she stays healthy and continues her career. She may catch up with Lisa Wagner. Who knows?
It's very possible. I mean, I could see her doing it. I mean, she's an absolute great talent, and it's been a joy to watch her career so far. I would love to see some more. That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Coach, we are. I think we're wrapped up for the day for what we're doing with her, and we will. We won't be here tomorrow since we did today, and we will be coming back Friday, and we will announce that guest here in the next couple of days. So,
great.
We will see everybody soon.